Hey strangers, my name is Gabriel and welcome to my channel where I talk about freelancing, young adulting, surviving college, and personal development. Before I actually start this video, I just want to thank each and every one of you who have subscribed and who watched my introduction video. I did not expect to reach the 100 subscriber and 1,000 view milestones in such a short period of time. So thank you so much to everyone who clicked on my first video and watched it all the way through. I'm so grateful and I appreciate you all so much. With that out of the way, let's go back to the video. This week, we're going to be talking all about freelancing. Freelancing for students and beginners, and where do you actually start? Are you a student, a fresh graduate, or someone who just wants to start a brand new, side hustle? Don't worry, I got you. Today, I'll be teaching you the 5 basic steps that you should go through before you actually start your freelancing career. Also, make sure to watch until the very end of this video because I will be sharing 2 bonus tips that helped me land my first freelancing gigs. So watch out for that. As a disclaimer, everything that I will be saying in this video are based on my own experience and my own research. So please take everything with a grain of salt. Not everything that is applicable to me will be applicable to you and your situation. And this is why the first rule or the first step that you should go through is 1, do your own research. That is an important step that you should do with everything in your life, actually. Before you start doing anything, do your own research. Verify it for yourself. So what do you need to do research about exactly? A lot of people enter freelancing with a lot of misconceptions, because some people seem to mistake freelancing with being a remote employee, and I'm going to tell you the difference. So right now, for students like me, we are undergoing a remote learning setup, right? We are having classes while at home. That's why it's a remote learning setup. The same is true for employees or for people out there who are employed right now. They are in a remote working setup. But like those employees and like us, we will go back to a physical environment, or I will be going back to school, and the employees will be going back to work or their physical offices. That's where remote working actually differs from freelancing, because when you're a remote employee, there are sometimes jobs that are 100% remote. That means you don't have a physical office and you can work from anywhere you want, but you are bounded by hours, whereas a freelancer is always remote. Based on my experience, all of the gigs that I've gotten, there was no need to ask my location because in the first place, I didn't need to know. You need to research about whether you actually want to be a freelancer or you want to be a remote employee. Another thing that you need to research about is the difference between being a project-based freelancer and an hourly-based freelancer. So a project-based freelancer, that's mainly what I've been doing. So when we say project-based, you are given a certain deadline for a certain project, and it is out of your own volition how you are going to be able to accomplish that specific project. For example, if it's a project that has a 1-week deadline, it depends on you if you can finish it in a day, in 3 days, in 4 days, etc. Right? So you have the freedom to accomplish it sooner rather than later. Whereas when you're an hourly-based freelancer, you are paid by the hour, as the name suggests. And you will most definitely be using a time tracker. Most freelancers use this. There are certain softwares like Track and Timeproof that freelancers use to track the activity that they are doing. That tracking information will be sent to the client. They will know what you did in a certain number of hours, so that there is no nuance between you and the client, right? They don't question you if you did anything during that time. There are also hourly-based projects that is somewhat similar to an output-based project. A client would determine that a certain project would require 300 hours. For example, a client would determine that building a website of this level, of this complexity, would require 200, 300 hours. They would pay you for the number of hours, but even if you don't fulfill that amount of hours and you get the project done in a lesser amount or in a quicker amount of time, they would still pay you the full amount. It highly depends on the client and it highly depends on what's agreed upon. But yeah, you need to do your own research. Another thing that you need to search is what service do you actually plan to provide. You can't actually just start freelancing and not know what you're gonna freelance, right? In my case, I am a writer. That's the skill or the tool set that I think really works for me. I also sometimes freelance as a voice actor. I narrate videos, etc., right? So you need to identify what service you actually plan to offer as a freelancer, and then it doesn't stop there. You also need to search which niche you plan to work in. What is a niche? A niche is basically your genre, right? You can't just be a freelance writer. You can't just be a freelance video editor. You need to narrow down the scope of work or expertise that you plan to offer. For example, I am a freelance travel blog writer. I'm also a freelance technical writer. Those are more narrow niches that I write for. So it's sort of like a genre, right? For example, if you are a freelance photographer, you can be a freelance wedding photographer. You can be a freelance events photographer. You need to have a specific niche because the more narrow it is, the easier it'll be for you to find your specific audience or to find clients. So yeah, it's a little chunky. It's one of the chunkiest parts of being a freelancer, but research. It's really, really, really important. Okay, now let's move on to the second step that you need to follow. So a lot of people overlook this until they graduate, but you need to secure a government ID. A lot of the freelancing sites that I've gone through, and I think this is true with the majority of sites out there, before you actually register a profile, they would need you to verify your identity. And the best way to do that would be through government IDs. So I'm just going to flash here on my screen the level of difficulty. I'm going to flash it right over here. Based on my experience and my own research, the level of difficulty of getting each ID, from the easiest ID that you can get to the hardest. And I will also be flashing which IDs are free. You would need to secure these IDs, these government IDs, so that you will be able to verify your accounts. And also, I plan to do a separate video next week about government IDs specifically. I will be covering how to apply for each ID that I already have, and I will be detailing the application process, how much you're going to spend for that specific ID, etc. Right? So stay tuned for that video next week. Now, one thing that I also want to discuss with government IDs that most people don't know because it's something new is we have something called the First Time Job Seekers Assistance Act. What is that? I will be leaving a link down under the description that discusses it in detail. But basically, this act or this law mandates that anyone who is a first-time job applicant, like you're going to apply for your first job, all the government IDs that you need in order to secure a job or any documents, government documents that you need will be free. The fees will be waived. So this act is something that I was able to experience. I was able to use this law last year when I applied for my first job as a customer service representative. So basically, you just need to secure a certification from your barangay that says that you've never been employed before, so that when you go to offices like PSA, where you get your birth certificate, you'll just present that and they will give you your birth certificate for free. You go to PNP and you get a free police clearance. You go to NBI and you get a free NBI clearance. That will definitely jumpstart your journey as a freelancer when you secure those important documents, especially since it's for free, right? But make use of this act and this law that will help you secure those documents if you don't have the funds to secure them now, right? So after you do your own research and after you secure your government IDs, the third step that you need to follow is preparing your equipment. So what tools are we talking about? So the downside of being a freelancer compared to being an employee of a company is you actually need to provide your own equipment. Because again, if you're a freelancer, you are just an individual selling your own services to different clients, right? So that just means that you will be providing all the equipment needed to accomplish the service. So for me, as a freelance writer, the main equipment that I use are my laptop, my mobile device, my internet connection. That's about it. So there is something we call in the freelancing field as the basic starter package, where basically you need to have Wi-Fi connection or mobile data connection. You need to have your own laptop or desktop, and that's about it. For a vast majority of freelancers, that's everything. You just need Wi-Fi connection and a laptop or a mobile device. The freelancing equipment that you will be needing is again dependent upon the service that you will be providing. So if you're a graphic designer, you might need a tablet of some sort that will help you create your graphics, right? If you're a photographer, obviously you would need a camera. If you're a photographer and a video editor, aside from the camera, you would also need the software like Photoshop, Premiere Pro, all those stuff in order to edit and process the videos and the pictures. So the tool set or the set of equipment that you will be needing, again, vastly depends on what service are you planning to offer. So again, this all ties back to doing your own research, because you will be the one to assess what tools you will be needing. But the basics are basically, again, just a laptop or a desktop and internet. That's basically it. If you're finding this video informational or useful so far, please don't hesitate to hit the like button or consider subscribing. It really helps me out a lot. Fourth step is actually you need to have backup. What do I mean by that? Whatever equipment that you will be using or you're planning to use, you need to have a backup of everything. And this is a reality with all freelancers, because before you even secure a client, they will be asking you what your contingency plan or your backup plan is in case a storm happens, in case there's a power outage, in case your internet cuts off. So you need to have a backup with every single equipment that you need in order to fulfill a service. For example, for me, I have my laptop, and my backup if my laptop fails is my phone. I have Wi-Fi, and if my Wi-Fi suddenly loses connection, I have mobile data with my phone, and if my internet and my mobile data both are non-functioning, I also have a cafe downstairs where I can work. And if my power cuts off or there's a power outage, my unit also has a generator. So those are the backup plans that I have set up, and those are very essential. So this again varies on what type of freelancing service you plan to offer. Other things that I also have a backup for are whenever I write an article for a client, I would be writing it on Google Docs. And then aside from writing it on Google Docs, I sync it to my personal drive. Aside from my work email, I sync it with my personal email, so that if ever the document gets lost or the document gets corrupted, I still have a backup file of that Word document. The same is true with if you're a video editor or if you're a photographer or a graphic designer. You need to have a backup of that file that you made on Photoshop or that thing that you made on, Premiere Pro. You should always have a backup of all the projects that you make. That's a part of the backup plan. So yeah, as a freelancer, it is really, really important that you have a backup plan with everything. But I understand if you're only starting out or if you're a complete beginner, not all of us have access to our own personal laptop, our own personal mobile device, or regular access to internet. But again, those are the necessities so that you will be able to secure good relationships with a client, that when something happens, you don't get bad feedback because you were unable to accomplish the task. Also, don't be afraid to tell a client that when something happens, you will be going to an internet cafe or you will be going to a friend's house. That's completely fine. That does not sound unprofessional. It makes it sound that you actually have a plan right? Instead of saying, I don't know, instead of lying. It's better to tell the truth, what you plan to do when something happens. Client will not look down on you if you say that you will be going to a friend's house and you will be staying there. If a storm hit, don't be afraid to tell the truth and just carry yourself genuinely. Which is why on the last and on the fifth step, before you actually start your freelancing career, you need to make sure that you already have a resume, a cover letter, and if you are in the creatives field, you already have a portfolio. Before you actually start freelancing, you need to already have that supporting documents on how credible you are on that service that you're trying to offer. So that's it. Those are basically the 5 basic steps. If you're a little scared about making your own resume like I was when I started, don't worry. I'll also be making a video that covers that topic mainly. But for now, I will be linking a video down on the description again. When I started making my own resume, I used Teacher Laika's YouTube video about resumes. And it was a really good start for me to make my own resume. So I'll be linking that below so you can check that out and see for yourself. So to those of you who have reached this part of the video so far, thank you so much. Again, I encourage you to subscribe and to like this video if it has helped you so far. So now I will be sharing my first bonus tip that helped me secure my first freelance gig. So my first step is actually to scavenge your schoolwork. What do I mean by that? When I started freelancing, I knew from the get-go that I will be focusing on writing. So I didn't have any professional experience when I was making my portfolio. So I turned to my schoolworks. I sought out the essays that I made, grade 7. I sought out the essays that I made junior high, senior high, and I tried to find all the poems that I made, that I entered in competitions. Because if you don't have any work experience, the most experience that you will have is school experience. So try to look for projects and things that you made while you were in school that are related to the service that you want to offer. Are you a graphic designer or applying to become a graphic designer? Then look for publications that you made while still in school. Maybe you contributed to an organization, or you could also start doing it now, as soon as now. If you don't have any relevant experiences or any relevant projects now, while you're still in school, you can sign up for an organization, take up a position that would be related to the service that you're trying to fulfill, and then start doing it now. Start building your portfolio now. Because again, that will help you jumpstart or kickstart your freelancing career. So yeah, scavenge your schoolworks, try to search for anything relevant, no matter how old it may be. You can still update it, right? Because again, it will still be your personal work. So maybe it's an old poem in 5th grade. Update it, make it better, make it sound better. Likewise with everything else that you've ever done. Build the portfolio now. That's my bonus tip number 1. Because of my schoolworks and because of my essays and my research papers, I was able to land my second freelancing gig. Now, my bonus tip number 2 is actually how I landed my first gig. And I kid you not, this is a very unconventional piece of advice, but apply for a job that doesn't require a resume or a portfolio. I am very, very lazy, or I was very, very lazy when I started freelancing. And I knew that making a resume or a portfolio took a lot of time. So I was too lazy to do it. So what I did was just apply for positions or apply for jobs or job ads that didn't require you to submit a resume. That's how I got my first freelancing gig. I applied for a position that did not require a resume or a portfolio. I just needed to do a test and an interview. And that was it. I landed my freelancing gig. We worked for 9 months together. And that could be something that you want to do and implement as well. Try to apply for positions that don't require a resume or a portfolio. You might be surprised. That might be your first job ever, because again, it's mostly here in the Philippines that require, a very bulky resume. My experience with foreign employers are vastly different. They just want you for the skill set and the tools that you have. So if you have the skill set and if you have the tools, even though you lack the experience, a lot of clients would be willing to work with you. So yeah, that's basically everything that I want to say with this video. So I know you still have a lot of questions with freelancing. This is just but a buffer, a kickstarter, a jump start to the discussion about freelancing as a whole. So I will be making more videos about freelancing. On the next freelancing video, I will be discussing which sites specifically can you apply to become a freelancer and which sites are actually very beginner or student friendly. So watch out for that. But for now, this will be everything. So thank you for making it this far on this video. And hey, don't be a stranger. Like this video, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and comment down any questions. And I'll see you next week on the next video. Bye.